Welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to dive into an ancient, high-stakes survival case study that will, quite honestly, completely rewire how you make decisions under extreme pressure. We're looking at a story drawn from a massive, ancient epic, where characters are pushed to the absolute limits of their mortality. But what makes this story so uniquely fascinating isn't just the intense physical danger they're in, it's the incredible, almost terrifyingly cold logic that emerges in the face of absolute panic. We're going to break down how to calculate risk when literally every single option looks like a dead end. So get ready, because the survival lessons packed into these next few minutes are highly applicable to the high-stress decisions you face in your own life today. Just take a second and really think about this quote. A position in which death is uncertain is better than that in which it is certain. I mean, it sounds like something a hardened military general would say right before a last stand, doesn't it? Or maybe the core philosophy of a modern risk management seminar. But the astonishing truth, these words were actually spoken by a group of helpless, flightless baby birds facing an approaching inferno. In the face of imminent doom, rather than panicking, these young minds deployed a chillingly rational framework to evaluate their options. This whole explainer is essentially going to pit cold, hard logic against blind panic.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to put yourself directly in the shoes of our subjects today. Imagine you're totally trapped. On one hand, you have a danger you can't see right now, but if you step into its territory, the data tells you that your destruction is 100% guaranteed. On the other hand, there's a massive, visible danger roaring right towards you, but there's a tiny, mathematical sliver of a chance it might miss. Which do you choose? It's the ultimate psychological test, and it's exactly what our characters are facing.
Section 1. The approaching fire. The clock is officially ticking.
So picture this setting. We're in the great Khandava forest, and a colossal blazing fire, personified in the source text as Agni, is sweeping through it with just terrifying haste. And caught right in the path of these fierce flames are the 4 young sons of Mandapala. Now here's the critical physical predicament that drives this entire scenario. They are young birds, and they are completely flightless. They can't just flap their wings and fly over the danger. They're rooted to the ground, entirely helpless, as a literal wall of fire races toward their exact spot.
Section 2. The Mother's Escape Plan. The mother of these chicks, Jarita, is absolutely frantic. She looks around the burning forest and spots a hole in the ground, a mouse hole. She pleads with her sons with pure emotional desperation, telling them, "The little mouse that had come out of this hole was seized by a hawk with his claws and carried away hence. Therefore ye may fearlessly enter this hole now." It's a desperate Hail Mary solution, born entirely out of maternal panic. To her, being underground means being safe from the fire. She believes the resident mouse is dead, making the hole a perfect little bunker. She's just begging them to act on her assurance.
But listen to how the children respond to their mother's frantic plea. They shoot back with a snappy, stoic, and incredibly calculated rebuttal. They say, "We are not by any means certain of that mouse having been taken away by the hawk. There may be other mice living here." They absolutely refuse to act on an assumption. You see, for a flightless little bird trapped underground, a mouse is a deadly predator. The chicks instantly recognize that the mother's plan relies on incomplete data. They don't know for sure the mouse is gone, and even if it is, they recognize the high probability of other mice being in there. It's an absolute masterclass in avoiding confirmation bias. They refuse to accept a comforting assumption just because it feels safer in the moment.
Section 3. The logic of uncertainty.
And this brilliantly illustrates their grim calculus. Let's break it down. On one side, option A, hide in the hole. If there are mice in there, death for a baby bird in a tiny enclosed space is absolute. It is a certainty. Now look at option B. Stay above ground with the fire approaching. To them, the fire is an uncertain death. Why? Because they aren't just panicking, they're actively analyzing the environmental variables around them. So what exactly are those variables? Well, they point out to their mother that they already see an adverse wind blowing the flames away. Because of this shifting wind, they conclude it's doubtful whether the fire will actually approach their exact spot at all. They're gathering real-time data. The fire is massive and terrifying, yes, but the wind introduces a crucial variable of chance. The mouse hole, however, is a closed system of guaranteed destruction if occupied. Therefore, the uncertain danger is statistically way safer than the certain danger. The mother tries to counter their logic by supplying highly specific data. She doesn't just say, "Hey, trust me." She breaks down an entire sequence of events to prove the hole is vacant. Step 1, she personally saw the mighty hawk swoop down and take the mouse. Step 2, she physically followed the hawk and pronounced a blessing on it, saying it would live in heaven without a foe with a golden body, because it removed their enemy. Step 3, she stayed until she saw the hawk actually devour the mouse, and only then did she return. She's giving them sworn step-by-step eyewitness testimony to guarantee their safety.
Let's move to see how this builds, because despite her incredibly detailed testimony, the young ones stand their ground. They reply, "We do not by any means know that the mouse hath been carried away. We cannot enter this hole in the ground without being certain of the fact." This is just a stunning lesson in epistemology, the theory of knowledge. They realize that secondhand knowledge, even from a deeply trusted source like their own mother, is not the same as absolute certainty. And when the cost of being wrong is certain death, secondhand knowledge simply isn't good enough.
Section 4. The ultimate sacrifice.
This part shifts the tone completely. The chicks have to explain why they don't believe her story, and they do it by analyzing her psychological state. They say to her, "We do not say that thou art dispelling our fears with a false story. For whatever is done by a person when his reason hath been disturbed can scarcely be said to be that person's deliberate act." Wow. They are telling their own mother that her intense fear for them has disturbed her reason. They recognize that extreme emotional distress heavily compromises a witness's reliability. They believe she might be subconsciously inventing this highly specific hawk story just to get them into what she desperately wants to believe is a safe space.
So the crucial point is how they use this logic to force her to leave them behind. They deliver an incredibly structured, emotionless argument for the survival of their entire lineage. They tell her she owes them nothing because they haven't benefited her yet. They tell her to flee because she's young, capable of finding her husband, and can obtain good children again. They're looking at the macro picture of their family's survival, completely removing their own individual egos from the equation.
They basically present her with an ultimate win-win scenario. If the mother escapes, she secures her own life, finds her husband, and has future offspring, so the family line survives. For the chicks who stay, there are only two outcomes, and both are totally acceptable to them. Either the fire consumes them and they attain regions of felicity, meaning they go to heaven, or, by that slim chance of the adverse wind we talked about, the fire spares them, and she can come back and obtain them again. It's a flawless, airtight logical argument delivered quite literally in the face of a blazing inferno.
Section 5. Facing the Flames.
Addressed by the sheer, unshakable reasoning of her sons, the mother bird, Jarita, makes the agonizing choice. Hastily, she leaves her helpless chicks behind in the burning Khandava forest and flies away to a spot of safety where there is no fire. It's a heartbreaking reality, but it's one dictated entirely by the strict rules of survival they just established. She secures the future, just exactly as they commanded.
And now the true climax of the danger arrives. Agni, the personification of the fire, approaches in incredible haste with fierce, roaring flames. The four flightless sons of Mandapala watch this blazing wall of fire rushing directly towards their spot. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. But then, Jaritari, the eldest of the four young birds, steps forward. Right in the hearing of the raging fire itself, he prepares to speak.
So the incredible question remains, what words could possibly stop a raging fire? You have a helpless, flightless bird about to try and reason with an unthinking, devouring force of nature. I mean, if their logic could convince their desperate mother to abandon them, what could Jarred Monetary possibly say to survive the inferno itself? It's a massive cliffhanger that makes you want to dive straight into the ancient text to find out what happens next. Keep questioning your assumptions, keep relying on your logic, and I'll see you in the next explainer.